A wealthy CEO kisses his new cleaning lady to escape an arranged marriage, and what happens next surprises everyone. Before we begin, please tell us in the comments what city you are watching from. And at the end, let us know how much you liked this story on a scale from 0 to 10. Enjoy. Everything is arranged, Alexander. The dinner is on Friday night, and the engagement will be officially announced. Victoria already has her dress ready. Those were Eleanor Montgomery's first words as she entered her son's mansion without any warning. As usual, Alexander was sitting on the couch looking over contracts. He glanced up slowly, as if he had just heard shocking news. "What engagement?" he asked, squinting. "Yours, of course, with Victoria. It's time for you to grow up and stop turning down anything related to marriage." "I never agreed to that," he insisted. "Please, Alexander, you're 28 and you have a big business to take care of. Marrying Victoria is the best way to bring our families together. You two look good together." "But I already have a girlfriend," he replied. Eleanor's look changed, as if he had just said something very strange. "What?" "That's right. I've been in a serious relationship for a while now." "And who is she?" Eleanor asked, crossing her arms. Alexander looked away for a moment, and then noticed her Mia Gonzalez, working on the chandelier in the hallway. She had rubber gloves on, a cloth tied around her head, and was humming to a song with earbuds hanging around her neck while making funny expressions. "Her," he said, pointing at Mia. "What?" he repeated, moving closer to her. "Don't you dare!" Eleanor warned, but it was too late. Mia turned around just in time for Alexander to kiss her. It lasted for 3 seconds, and Mia stood frozen, trying to understand what was happening. By the 4th second, she thought she might be dreaming, but on the 5th second, she pushed him away, surprised. "Are you crazy?" she yelled, taking off her gloves and tossing them aside. "I can explain," he started, but she cut him off. "No, you can't. You kissed me in front of your mother, and I wasn't even done cleaning the chandelier." Eleanor stood there in disbelief. This can't be real. A cleaning lady? Really? "Actually, she's a wonderful person," he said, still trying to stay calm. "A woman with a cloth on her head? That's called real life. Ever heard of it?" Eleanor didn't respond. Instead, she grabbed her fancy purse and left, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. Once the door closed, Mia crossed her arms and looked at Alexander. "Are you going to tell me what this is all about, or should I start guessing?" "I needed a way out. My mother keeps trying to make me marry Victoria, so I panicked. I said I was dating someone, and you were right there." "Of course. I was just hanging from the chandelier, so why not make me your pretend girlfriend?" she replied sarcastically. "It was a spur-of-the-moment thing." "A spur-of-the-moment thing? Starting a new business is one thing, but kissing someone like that is not just impulsive. It's crossing a line." "Look, I'm sorry." "Really? How about I get a bonus for all this trouble?" "Bonus?" he echoed, surprised. Mia picked up a rag and threw it at him. "Keep your bonus to yourself, Mr. Silvertie." With that, she turned and marched off toward the service area, clearly upset. Alexander stood still, his heart racing a little. It wasn't about his mother. In the back laundry room, Donna, a co-worker of Mia's, was folding sheets when she noticed Mia walking in, her hair messy and her face red. "Did something happen?" "The boss kissed me." "Huh?" Donna replied, right in the middle of the lobby with his mother watching. "He said he needed a reason to escape an arranged marriage, and I was a good excuse." "How did you feel?" "Angry, confused, and then there was the kiss." Mia paused. It tasted like fancy toothpaste and a little bit of arrogance. "Did you like it?" "I wanted to punch him, but I might have felt my heart skip a beat. But that was just a reflex, like sneezing or something." "I get it. If he tries that again with this girlfriend and kiss thing, I'll hit him with a mop." They both laughed. Meanwhile, Alexander was watching from the hallway camera, a small smile on his face. Maybe that cleaning lady was more interesting than anyone else he knew. The next day, Mia arrived at work earlier than usual, but feeling twice as grumpy. She promised herself she wouldn't look at that impulsive CEO. But that promise lasted only 35 seconds when she saw Alexander leaning against the kitchen door, coffee in hand and a grin on his face. "Good morning, temporary girlfriend. Sleep well?" he teased. I dreamt I was shoving a duster into your pride. Want me to draw you a picture? Listen, I know yesterday was strange, Alexander said, standing up straight. But my engagement is real, and now my mother thinks I'm with you. If you'll pretend to be my girlfriend for 1 week, I'll pay you. You'll pay me to pretend to be your girlfriend? Mia crossed her arms, surprised. What do you think I am? An actress in a fake romance? No, I think you're smart and can see a good opportunity. Oh, sure. Pretending to love a bossy CEO is every woman's dream, right? Are you saying you couldn't use some extra money? Maybe, but I could also use a massage chair and pistachio ice cream every Friday. That doesn't mean I'm going to make deals with billionaires who think the world revolves around them. He looked at her for a moment. Mia stood firm, arms crossed as if saying, I might be struggling, but I won't sell myself. Okay, he said. If you change your mind, let me know. He walked out of the kitchen, leaving behind a heavy silence and the smell of his coffee. Later, Mia got a call from her mother. Her younger brother Nico was back in the hospital. His heart condition had worsened, and he needed surgery by the end of the month. She hung up slowly, tears in her eyes. That evening, while mopping the hallway, she saw Alexander sitting by the fireplace looking at his phone. He looked up when she approached. Is the offer still available? She asked. It is until Sunday, he replied. $5,000 for the week. It goes straight into your account. Make it $10,000. What? 10? He exclaimed. Yes, and I want a signed contract. No surprise kisses, no touching without permission. And I have conditions, she added. Alexander leaned back in the chair. Go ahead. He set some ground rules. First, don't treat me like your helper. I'm not your assistant or anything like that. Second, don't comment on how I look, whether good or bad. And don't try to make over my style. You really do have a list, she teased. Third, I'm only doing this for my brother. If you're disrespectful or try to make me feel small, we're done. Understood? He offered his hand. Deal. She shook it firmly. Now let me get to work. This place won't clean itself. The next day, they started practicing how to act together. We need to look convincing, Alexander said in the garden. Call me honey. Would you prefer darling or little devil dressed as a prince? Honey is fine, she said, smiling. It was a mix of fake charm and boldness. Honey, have you seen my mop? I think I left it in the closet with my patients. Alexander took a breath. Mia, please, let's be serious. Sure, sweetheart. Who wouldn't believe in a fairy tale between a cleaning lady and a billionaire? Your problem is a gift for sarcasm, he replied. No, it's about not bowing down, she shot back with a smile. That's why you're frustrated. He paused. Despite her being aggravating, he was starting to admire her fearless spirit, though he wouldn't say it out loud. 3 days after their agreement, Alexander came into the kitchen looking anxious. We have dinner tonight, he said, adjusting his tie. Mia stopped what she was doing and looked at him. We who? If it's just you, go without me. You and me with my family. My mother wants to meet you. Oh, great, now I have to perform, she replied, rolling her eyes. It's just one dinner, Mia. You smile, eat, and make some polite conversation. That's it. Polite jokes. You know I'm not great with manners. Please, it's important, he said, revealing a hint of vulnerability. After a moment, she agreed. Fine, but if your mother treats me badly, I'll speak up. Deal. At 6 o'clock sharp, Mia came down the stairs wearing dark jeans, a fun top, a simple jacket, and clean boots. Her hair was in a ponytail, and her red lipstick completed her look. Alexander stood waiting in a suit that likely cost more than she made in a year. He hesitated when he saw her. You look fine, he said, offering his arm. Thanks for the excitement, she replied as she descended the last step. I hope your family isn't expecting a fashion show. They'll love you, he assured her, though he knew that wasn't true. Sure, just like a cat loves water. The restaurant picked by his mother was fancy, with white tablecloths and waiters who looked like they had degrees in manners. When Alexander and Mia arrived, they were the first ones there. She looked around with a mix of curiosity and discomfort. This place is so fancy it even fixed my posture, she whispered. Don't worry, it's just expensive food on tiny plates. With this decor, I bet even the water has a last name. A few minutes later, Eleanor Montgomery arrived, accompanied by a tall man with graying hair and a striking blonde woman in a red dress who looked like she belonged in a high-end magazine. Eleanor greeted her son with a quick kiss on the cheek, as cold as a business deal. "And you must be Mia, Mrs. Montgomery," Mia said, offering her hand with a polite smile. Eleanor looked at her hand as if it was something unpleasant, but shook it briefly. "This is my husband, Robert Montgomery, and our good friend, Victoria Sterling." "Unlike his wife," Robert said with a warm smile. "Pleasure to meet you, Mia." Alexander chimed in. "You two met in a rather unusual way. Your son has a unique knack for first impressions." Victoria stepped closer, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "What an interesting outfit, Mia. Vintage," she remarked. "Actually, it's from the latest Target collection on clearance," Mia replied with good humor. "But thank you for the compliment. Your dress is lovely, too. It must have cost more than 6 months of my pay." Victoria's smile twitched slightly. During dinner, Eleanor launched into questions without any subtlety. "So, Mia, Alexander told us you work at the house. What exactly do you do?" "I handle the cleaning and organization," Mia explained. "Basically, I make sure everything sparkles and smells nice." "How practical," Eleanor remarked, cutting her salmon carefully. "Very, especially since some people make a lot of messes," Mia said, looking directly at Victoria. Robert chuckled quietly, trying to hide it behind a sip of wine. "And what are your plans for the future?" Eleanor continued. "Do you plan to stay in cleaning?" "For now, yes. It's honest work and I support my family with it. I see no problem in that." "Of course not," Victoria said sweetly. "It's admirable how some people can be content with simplicity." Mia chewed slowly before she responded. "That's true. I'm easily satisfied. I don't need much to be happy." Alexander watched their exchange with growing admiration. Mia wasn't intimidated by anyone. "And how did you two fall in love?" Robert asked, genuinely interested. Mia and Alexander exchanged quick glances. "It was instant," Alexander said. "Like lightning," Mia added. "Only wetter." "Wetter?" Eleanor asked, frowning. "I spilled water on him my first day on the job. It was like love at first splash." Robert chuckled loudly, and even Alexander smiled genuinely. "How romantic," Victoria murmured, her tone revealing her sarcasm. "I know, right?" Mia replied, pretending not to notice. "You don't even see stories like this in the movies, only in real life." Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "And you really think you can fit into our social circle?" "Mrs. Montgomery, I'm not trying to fit in anywhere. I am who I am. Whether that works for you or not, that's not my concern. Your son accepts me as I am, and that's what matters." Alexander felt something unusual in his chest. Maybe admiration, or something deeper. "Well said," Robert said, raising his glass. "Here's to authenticity." Eleanor did not raise her glass. After dinner, while waiting by the cars, Eleanor pulled Alexander aside. "If you want to ruin our family's name, do it on your own. But her? She won't last long here," she whispered, her eyes flashing with anger. "Mom, don't call me Mom when you're acting like this. This girl isn't from our world, Alexander, and the sooner you see that, the better." Across the parking lot, Victoria walked over to Mia. "You did well tonight," she said with a forced smile, but it was just the beginning. "Thanks for the warning," Mia replied. "But if you think I'm going to back down just because someone else came, you're wrong. I'm not scared of a spoiled princess." Victoria smirked and walked away. In the car ride home, Alexander was quiet for a long time. "You were great," he finally said. "I was just being myself. If that's great, your expectations are too low." "No, it's just that you didn't let them push you down, not even for a second." Mia glanced at him from the side. "Did you think I would give in?" "I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that." "And what was it?" Alexander paused. "Brave, real, interesting." "Careful, boss. At this rate, you might actually start to like me." He smiled but didn't respond, because that idea was starting to seem a little less impossible. The morning after the awkward dinner, Mia arrived at the mansion, determined to keep things normal. Pretending to be Alexander Montgomery's girlfriend was just a temporary job. Plus, the house wouldn't clean itself. She was in the kitchen organizing utensils when she heard the old toaster making a strange sound every time someone tried to use it. Sparks popped from the worn cord, and she knew it was only a matter of time before someone got hurt. "Just one more thing to fix," she said, grabbing a screwdriver from the toolbox. Mia had always been good with repairs. Since she was a child, she learned that when something broke at home, you fixed it yourself or managed without. There wasn't enough money to call someone for every little issue. She unplugged the toaster and examined the cord. The problem looked simple, just some loose wires that needed reconnecting. Easy fix. "I'm just going to take a quick look," she whispered, unscrewing the back panel. What she didn't realize was that the outlet was faulty. Even with the toaster unplugged, there was still some current running through the cord. When she touched the exposed wires with the wet screwdriver, she got shocked. The sudden jolt made her scream and fall back, knocking over a metal pan that crashed to the floor. Alexander was in his office when he heard the noise. First the scream, then the crash. He dropped his papers and ran to the kitchen, heart racing for reasons he couldn't understand. He found Mia on the floor, holding her left arm and breathing heavily. She looked pale, and he noticed a small red mark on her hand. "Mia, what happened?" he asked as he knelt beside her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "The toaster was broken." "I thought I could fix it," she said, struggling to catch her breath. He looked at the broken toaster. "You got shocked. Can you get up?" "I think so." She tried to stand, but wobbled. The shock had left her legs shaky. Without thinking, Alexander lifted her into his arms, ignoring her protests. "Hey, I can walk." "Don't be stubborn now, Mia. I'm taking you to the hospital." "Hospital? It was just a little shock. No need for all this fuss." "Your hand is hurt and you can barely stand. We're going to the hospital. End of discussion." During the drive to the emergency room, Alexander focused on the road in a way he hadn't in years. He glanced at Mia in the passenger seat every time he stopped at a red light, checking if she was okay. "Stop looking at me like I'm about to collapse," she said, noticing his worry. "I've experienced worse surprises trying to fix my mom's shower," Mia said. "But that doesn't make me feel better. You're too tense for someone pretending to be a girlfriend." Alexander stayed quiet, knowing she was right. He felt more worried than just for a contract. At the hospital, he insisted on staying with her, even when she said she could go in alone. He stood by the bed while the doctor checked her burn and asked about the accident. "You're lucky the shock was quick," the doctor said. "The burn is minor. I'll put on some ointment and cover it. It'll heal up in a week." After treating Mia's hand and explaining how to care for it, the doctor left them alone. "See, I told you it wasn't serious," Mia said, shaking her wrapped hand. "You could have been really hurt. Why didn't you call me to fix the toaster?" "Because I know how to fix things," he replied with a slight smile. "You'd probably call someone who would charge $200 to change a 5-cent wire." "You have a practical view of life," he added. "When you grow up without money, you learn to be practical. You either solve your problems yourself, or you go without." On the way back to the mansion, the silence changed. It felt less tense and more thoughtful. "Tell me about your childhood," Alexander said out of nowhere. Mia looked surprised. "Why do you want to know?" "Curiosity. You often talk about handling things on your own and not depending on anyone. That didn't come from nowhere." She paused, looking out the window. "My dad left when I was 8. Just packed his things one morning and never returned. He left my mom with 3 kids and a lot of bills." "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I wasn't even 2 then. My mom worked 2 jobs for years. I learned to cook, care for my little brothers, and fix things because I had to. There was no choice." Alexander listened quietly, beginning to understand her fierce determination. "And you never got angry about growing up so fast?" "I did, especially when I saw other kids complaining about their phones while I was saving up for a new notebook, but anger doesn't pay the bills, you know." "How did you stay in a good mood through all that?" Mia laughed, a warm and genuine sound. "Believe it or not, my mom always said laughter was free. She said we might be poor, but we didn't have to be bitter. That laughter was something no one could take from us. Alexander felt a stirring in his chest, an admiration that went beyond looks or initial attraction. "Your mom sounds wise," he said. "She is. She used to say that wealthy men are like fancy desserts. They look good, but they can end up making you sick." Alexander laughed sincerely for the first time since they met. "So, am I just a fancy dessert? Worse, a fancy dessert with a shiny cover nice to see, but hard to enjoy, and probably bad for you?" He laughed even more. "That's a terrible comparison, but maybe it's necessary." When they reached the mansion, Alexander insisted on helping Mia out of the car, even when she said she was fine. "You're not working today," he told her firmly. "Rest. I'll talk to Donna to take over your tasks." "Alexander, it was just a little shock." "No, that's an order." "Oh, so you're the boss again." "When it comes to your safety, yes," he replied. At the employee entrance, Mia turned to him. "Thank you for taking me to the hospital, for waiting, for caring." "No need to thank me." "Yes, I do. I'm not used to this." "Used to what? Someone caring about me?" "Normally, I'm the one taking care of others." Alexander looked at her for a moment in the warm afternoon light. Her hand was wrapped up, and she had a tired but real smile. Mia seemed less like a worker, and more like a strong, brave woman who sometimes needed support. "Mia, don't get any ideas," she joked with a playful smile. "I'm not great with wealthy men." "Really? I seem to break out in hives, start sneezing, and lose my calm. It's a serious problem." Alexander chuckled. "What happens?" "First, I start thinking shiny things are lovely. Then I enjoy foods with fancy names. And finally, I believe sparkling drinks are better than soda. Sounds serious, very much so. So it's best to keep a little distance. For your own safety, of course." She winked and went inside, leaving Alexander at the door with a smile and an odd feeling in his chest. Maybe she was right about her issue with rich men, but he found himself thinking he might have a similar problem when it came to headstrong, funny workers. And unlike her, he was beginning to think he might not want that fixed. That evening, while working in his office, Alexander remembered how Mia had spoken about her childhood. Her mother learned to handle things herself. There was a strength in her he had never noticed in women from his social circle. Victoria Sterling had never fixed a thing in her life. She probably wouldn't even know how to change a light bulb. But Mia tried to repair a broken toaster because she believed she could solve it. He smiled, recalling the funny comment she made about ice cream. Maybe it was true. Maybe he really was a bad choice for someone like her. But for the first time in his life, Alexander Montgomery was willing to discover more. A week after the toaster incident, Alexander arrived in the kitchen dressed sharply, looking eager yet nervous. "I need you to come with me to an event tonight," he said, adjusting his cuffs. Mia, who was slicing a snack, paused, surprised. "What kind of event?" "The Chicago Business Association's charity gala. It's important for work, and my mother will be there with Victoria." "Oh, I see. Time to show off a pretend date. Exactly. Do you have anything nice to wear?" Mia laughed, but it wasn't a joyful sound. "Sure, Alexander. I keep a collection of fancy dresses hidden in my small apartment right next to my cleaning uniforms." He felt awkward upon catching her sarcasm. "Sorry. I'll sort it out. What's your size?" "Don't even think about getting me a dress. I'll manage." 4 hours later, Mia came down the grand staircase wearing a simple black dress borrowed from her sister-in-law. It wasn't extravagant, but it looked good on her. She had styled her hair neatly and wore light makeup. Alexander was waiting for her in the hall, and when he saw her, he paused. "You look wonderful," he said, sounding sincere. "Thank you. You look decent." He laughed. "Just decent?" "I don't want to inflate that ego too much." The event took place at Chicago's finest hotel. The room was filled with white flowers, golden lights, and nicely set tables. Men in tuxedos and women in elegant dresses chatted over drinks, discussing business and charity. As soon as they entered, Mia felt everyone's gaze on them, mostly on her, and they weren't looks of admiration. "Relax," Alexander whispered, offering his arm. "You fit in here just as much as anyone else." "Sure. Thanks for trying to lift my spirits." They had just raised their champagne glasses when Eleanor Montgomery appeared, followed by Victoria Sterling in a stunning red dress that probably cost more than Mia's car. "Alexander, my dear," Eleanor said, kissing her son's cheek while keeping her gaze on Mia. "What a surprise to see you here, Mia." "Good evening, Mrs. Montgomery. This event is lovely." "Yes, isn't it? But I guess you're not used to this kind of crowd." Before Mia could reply, Victoria came over with a fake smile. "Mia, that's an interesting dress. Vintage again?" "Actually, it's borrowed, but thanks for noticing. Your dress is beautiful, too. It must have cost enough to feed a family for a month." Victoria's smile faded a bit. Throughout dinner, the teasing continued. Victoria made snide remarks about those who didn't know proper manners, while Eleanor asked, "Have you been to events like this before?" in a way that showed she already knew the answer. Mia took it all in stride, responding with humor when she could and ignoring the comments when it wasn't worth the trouble. But the real test came when they went to the women's restroom. "Do you really think you can keep up this act?" Victoria asked while fixing her lipstick in the mirror. "What act?" Mia said as she washed her hands. "Come on, dating Alexander Montgomery? Everyone knows that's absurd. You're just a temporary distraction. Whether I'm temporary or not is not your concern." Victoria replied, "It is because I've known Alexander for years. I know what he looks for, and it's definitely not someone pretending to be more than they are." Mia turned to face her. "You know what I find interesting, Victoria? You're so worried about me that you forgot to ask why Alexander chose a simple cleaner over someone like you." Victoria's face flushed. "When he gets tired of this game, I'll still be here, just like always." "Well, good for you. Must be nice to live on hope." When they returned to the ballroom, Alexander could tell something was off. Victoria's face was tight, and Mia seemed quieter than usual. "Everything okay?" he whispered to Mia. "Perfectly fine," she said, though it wasn't true. That night, Alexander observed how the other guests looked at Mia, whispering as she passed and deliberately excluding her from conversations. The tension peaked when a drunken businessman approached their table. "Montgomery, so this is the famous girlfriend," he said loudly, grabbing attention. "Wow, this is quite a change from socialites to the help." The silence that followed was thick. Alexander slowly stood up, his expression fierce. "What did you just say?" "Oh, come on, Alex. Everyone here knows who she is. No need to pretend." "You need to apologize right now," Alexander said firmly. "You don't have to," Mia murmured as she touched his arm. "Yes, I do." He shot a cold look at the man. "You just disrespected my girlfriend, and that's not okay. You should apologize or leave. Your choice." Realizing he had overstepped, the businessman mumbled an apology and walked away. Alexander sat down again, but Mia was already on her feet. "I need some fresh air," she said, heading for the terrace. He followed her outside where the city lights twinkled in the distance. Mia leaned on the railing, taking deep breaths. "Thank you," she said when he came close. "You stood up for me in there." "No need to thank me. That guy was completely out of line." "He was, but he had a point too." "What do you mean?" Mia turned to face him. "Alexander, let's be honest. I don't fit in that world. I never will. And you know that. It doesn't mean they have the right to treat you badly. No, it doesn't. But it doesn't mean things will change either." They stood quietly for a moment, looking out at the city. "Why did you do it?" Mia asked. "Why did you defend me?" Alexander paused. "Because they were wrong. You didn't deserve that. That's the only reason." He looked at her, and there was something different in his eyes. "No, not the only one." "Then what?" she asked. "I don't know how to explain it, Mia. You came into my life and turned everything upside down. In a good way. In a confusing way." She stepped a little closer. "Confusing? How?" "Confused like, why do you make me feel both happy and frustrated at the same time?" Mia smiled. "Maybe because you've never met anyone who wasn't scared of you." They stood very close now. Alexander could smell her perfume and see the small freckles on her nose that makeup hadn't fully covered. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. They leaned in toward each other, and Mia could feel his breath on her face. "There you are." A voice made them jump apart. "The event is over. It's time to go." Alexander sighed in frustration. "Let's go." he said to Mia, offering his arm. In the car, the silence between them was thick with unspoken feelings. Both knew something important had almost happened on the terrace, something that could change everything, and they both realized that they would have to deal with it eventually. 2 days after the gala, Victoria Sterling was in her office, planning what she thought would be her best move yet. She had spent years studying Alexander and learning his weaknesses. Now, she had finally discovered what made him vulnerable. It was that determined cleaner who had truly caught his attention like no one before her. Victoria picked up the phone and called Marcus Webb, a businessman known for his questionable practices and his willingness to help in exchange for favors. "Marcus, it's Victoria. I need a favor, one that could benefit us both." 2 hours later, Marcus called the Montgomery mansion asking to speak with Mia Gonzalez. He claimed he had heard about her skills and organization and wanted to hire her for a private job at his hotel that would pay $500 for just 2 hours of work. For Mia, still thinking about her brother's surgery, the offer seemed like a dream come true. "I just need you to organize a few documents in my office at the hotel. Nothing too big. Room 204, Grand Chicago Hotel today at 3 o'clock. Mia accepted the job without any second thoughts. What Mia didn't realize was that Victoria had hired a photographer to be in the hotel hallway at that exact time, and she had told Marcus to wear a bathrobe, as if he had just gotten out of the shower. When Mia arrived at 3:15 p.m., Alexander received an envelope in his office. Inside were 3 pictures. One showed Mia entering room 204, another showed her talking to Marcus at the door while he wore a robe, and the last one made it look like they were getting very close. Along with the photos was a note. "Thought you should know the kind of woman you've been defending. A concerned friend." Alexander stared at the pictures, feeling a rush of sickness. First disbelief, then anger, and finally a kind of pain he hadn't expected. When Mia returned home at 5 o'clock, she found Alexander waiting for her in the hall, holding the photos with an expression she had never seen before. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice too calm. "Working? Why do you ask?" He threw the photos onto the coffee table. Mia stared at the photos, her heart sinking. "Alexander, I can explain," she said, hoping to calm him down. "Can you? Then tell me why you were in Marcus Webb's hotel room today." "He hired me to help organize some papers. That's all it was." "Papers in a hotel room while he's in a bathrobe?" Alexander's voice was cold. "He claimed he just got back from the gym." "I didn't know he'd be dressed like that. I didn't even stay long. I left right away. Please don't treat me like I'm foolish." "I'm not. I'm being honest with you." Alexander turned away from her. "You know what's sad? I thought you were different. I thought we had something real," he said, his words hitting her hard. "Alexander, you can't be serious. You really think—" "I don't know what to think. These pictures say a lot. They don't show anything. I was there for only 5 minutes. And you didn't mention that when you got back. I didn't think it was important. It was just a quick job with a married man." Mia felt tears threaten to spill, but she held them back. "What hurts most is that you didn't trust me," she said. "You judged me without hearing my side. The proof is right there, Mia. Or maybe you just wanted an excuse to end this before it got too serious." For a moment, Alexander seemed unsure, but his anger returned. "Maybe you're right. Maybe this never should have started." Mia took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "If that's how you see me, then there's nothing more to say." She took the mansion key from her pocket and placed it on the table next to the photos. "I quit as your housekeeper and your girlfriend." "Mia, wait," he said. "No, you made your feelings clear. I may just be a housekeeper, but I have my self-respect. I won't stay where I'm not valued." She walked toward the door, but paused before leaving. "Just one thing, Alexander. When you learn the truth, and you will, remember that you chose not to trust me." With that, she left, closing the door behind her and leaving Alexander alone with the photos and a sinking feeling he hadn't expected. A few hours later, while Alexander struggled to focus on work, his phone rang. It was James, his assistant. "Mr. Montgomery, sorry to interrupt, but I thought you should know. I got a strange call from Marcus Webb." What did he want? He asked if you were happy with the pictures. He said Victoria Sterling wanted to confirm that everything went as planned. The ground seemed to shift beneath Alexander. Say that again? I think you've been set up. Alexander ended the call, urgency pulsing through him as he rushed to his car. 20 minutes later, he was knocking hard on Marcus Webb's apartment door. When Marcus opened it and saw Alexander, fear washed over his face. Montgomery, tell me everything that happened today. Now. 5 minutes later, Alexander learned the whole story. Victoria had paid Marcus to create that scene and had even hired the photographer. Mia was innocent in all of this. Back in his car, Alexander gripped his phone, his hands trembling. He had made a huge mistake by doubting the one person who had always been truthful with him. Mia picked up the phone after several rings. Hello, Mia, it's me. Silence filled the line. Mia, please don't hang up. What do you want, Alexander? Her voice was weary and hurt. I found out the truth about the photos and Marcus. Victoria had planned it all. There was a heavy silence. Mia, you were right. I should have trusted you, Alexander admitted. I messed everything up. Yes, you did. Please come back, Alexander. I know I don't deserve it. I know you don't have any reason to give me another chance, but I need you here. For what? He asked. To keep pretending to be your girlfriend. No, she said. When you left, the house felt empty. It wasn't about cleaning or order. It was about you. I miss your laughter in the kitchen, your funny comments, and how you always say what you think. Mia stayed silent for a long moment, and Alexander thought she had hung up. Please, he said, his voice full of hope. Let me fix this. I'll think about it, she finally replied. I understand. I'll call you tomorrow. The call ended, and Alexander was left alone in the car, feeling his heart race and a light hope growing that maybe he could win back the trust of the one person who mattered. For the first time, he realized what it meant to miss someone, and it was a feeling he never wanted to experience again. Alexander had never been to the south side of Chicago before. His GPS usually took him to areas with fancy names and big houses. But now, on a Thursday afternoon, he was looking for Mia's home in a neighborhood with small houses, cracked sidewalks, and kids biking in the street on old bicycles. He stopped in front of a one-story house painted pale blue. A small porch held some potted plants and a rocking chair that seemed to have many stories to tell. The open iron gate let him hear voices and laughter from inside. He checked himself in the rearview mirror. In his expensive suit and fine watch, he looked out of place. But since Mia hadn't answered his calls since yesterday, he knew he needed to see her in person. He knocked on the screen door, and a woman in her 50s appeared. She had the same dark eyes as Mia and a warm but careful smile. Can I help you? She asked. I'm Alexander Montgomery. I work with Mia. The woman's expression changed right away. Oh, you're the boss. Yes, ma'am. I'd like to speak with her if that's okay. Carmen, Mia's mother, looked him over closely, as if she could see beyond his nice clothes. Mia, she called into the house. Your boss is here. A moment later, Mia came out wearing faded jeans and a Chicago Bulls t-shirt. She looked surprised and not very happy. Alexander, what are you doing here? I said I'd think about it. I came to talk. You haven't answered my calls, and I had to come see you. Carmen looked from one of them to the other. Well, since you're here, come in. I won't leave anyone standing outside like a salesman. Mom, that's not necessary, Mia protested. Mia Gonzalez, mind your manners. Come in, young man. I just made coffee. Alexander walked into the house with both women. The living room was small but welcoming, filled with furniture that seemed to have been with them for years. Family photos were on the walls, and there was a pleasant smell of home-cooked food in the air. Have a seat, Carmen said, pointing to the couch. Mia tells me your house is bigger than our whole block. Mom? Mia blushed. I'm just curious. I've never met a millionaire before. Just then, a boy about 16 came in from the kitchen, looking a bit thin but with a bright smile. This must be the famous boss, he said, shaking Alexander's hand. I'm Nico. Thanks for giving my sister a job. Nice to meet you, Nico, Alexander replied. Mia talks about you a lot. I hope it's all good things. She makes jokes about me at least 3 times a day. Alexander finally smiled for the first time in days. Only good things, I promise. Carmen brought in coffee in different but clean cups. So, Mr. Montgomery, what brings you to our home? Alexander glanced at Mia, who was sitting on the edge of an armchair, looking a bit uneasy. I came to say I'm sorry to Mia. I made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Carmen asked with a caring tone only a mother can use. Mom, please. I didn't trust her when I should have, Alexander said. Someone tricked her to make it seem like she did something wrong. I believed the fake proof instead of believing in her. Carmen crossed her arms. So now you want her to work for you again? Yes, but I want to do more than that. I want to fix things because she didn't deserve what happened. Nico leaned closer. What exactly did you do? Nico? Nia whispered. No, let him say it. If he made my sister cry, I want to know why. Alexander looked at Mia, surprised. You cried? That's not important. Yes, it is, Carmen said. Mia doesn't cry easily, not even when she broke her arm at 12. Alexander felt even worse. I'm really sorry. At that moment, there was a noise from the kitchen and Carmen got up. Dinner is almost ready. Do you eat chicken and rice, Mr. Montgomery? Yes. Great. Stay for dinner. That way you two can have a proper talk. Mom, he probably has other things to do. I'd love to stay, Alexander said quickly, if it's not too much trouble. An hour later, Alexander sat at a small wooden table that could barely fit 4 people, eating rice, roasted chicken, and salad on various but clean plates. Carmen was sharing funny stories from Mia's childhood. Nico spoke about his plans to study engineering once he felt better. Mia went between laughing and being embarrassed. Carmen told a story about when Mia decided to fix the iron all by herself at 8 years old, saying she almost shocked the whole house. Seems like a pattern, Alexander said, looking at Mia. She tried to fix my toaster last week. And how did that go? She got shocked, and I had to take her to the hospital. Mia, Carmen and Nico said together. It wasn't that bad, Mia defended herself. After dinner, while Carmen and Nico went to watch their show, Mia began washing the dishes. Alexander stood up from the table. Let me help. You don't have to. I want to. They stood side by side at the small sink, with Alexander washing and Mia drying. It felt nice in a way he was not used to. Simple and real. Your family is amazing, he said. They are all I have. That's why I work so hard. That's why I take extra jobs even when they are strange. Mia, about the photos. You really thought I was the kind of person who would get involved for money? Alexander paused. No, not really. But when I saw those photos, I panicked because I was starting to feel something real for you, and it scared me. Mia stopped drying. Something real? Yes. And when I thought that maybe you were just pretending, I chose to believe the lie instead of risking my feelings. In love? Alexander realized what he just said and looked away, unsure. Maybe. I don't know. You confuse me. Mia laughed, a soft and real sound. You're odd, but you're getting a bit easier to be around. That's a big step. A week ago, I thought you were impossible. They finished washing the dishes in a comfortable silence. When Mia put away the last plate, Alexander gently touched her arm. Do you forgive me? Really? She looked at him for a long moment. One condition. What is it? The next time someone tells you stories about me, ask me first. Always. Deal. And one more thing. Go ahead. You're just my boss again. That's it. I'm done pretending to be your girlfriend. Alexander felt a little sad. Why? Because things were getting too complicated. If this ever becomes something real, I want it to be because you chose it. Not because you needed a pretend relationship to avoid an arranged marriage. He smiled. That makes sense. Good. Do you agree? I do. But can I ask one thing? Sure. If I do, will you choose it? Would you think about it? Mia smiled but didn't answer. Let's see if you can go 1 week without driving me crazy first. When Alexander left the Gonzalez house that night, he knew 3 things. First, he had just met the most welcoming family. Second, Mia Gonzalez was even more special than he thought. And third, he was completely falling for her. This time, he wasn't afraid to admit it. The next morning, Mia returned to the Montgomery mansion feeling strange. It was like coming back to a familiar place that had changed while she was away. Alexander met her at the door, wearing jeans and a casual shirt, which made her wonder if he was feeling okay. "Good morning," he said with a shy smile. "Good morning, boss," she replied, emphasizing the last word. "About that, I have a problem." Mia sighed. "What kind of problem now?" "My mother planned another dinner for Saturday with Victoria and her family. Apparently, our get-back-together needs to be celebrated." "Get back together?" "She thinks we broke up and made up, which is kind of true." Mia crossed her arms. "Alexander, I told you I didn't want to pretend to be your girlfriend anymore." "I know, but it's just one more time. After that, I'll tell her the truth. I promise." "And what if she gets upset?" "Let her. I should have dealt with this from the beginning instead of dragging you into it." Mia studied him. He seemed different, less confident, more open. "All right, but this is the last time. And no drama." No drama. That afternoon, while Mia was organizing books in the library, Alexander came to the door with a shy look. "Want to see something?" "That depends. Is it cool or weird?" "A bit of both." He led her to a door she had never noticed before, hidden behind a bookshelf. When he opened it, there was a staircase leading to a large basement. "What is this?" "My lab." Mia walked down the stairs and was amazed. The room was filled with workbenches, electronic gadgets, and whiteboards covered in drawings and notes. "You have a lab in your house?" "It's not secret, just private. What do you do here?" Alexander walked to one of the benches and picked up a small device that looked like a remote. "Inventions, mostly to help people with disabilities." He showed her the device. "This one can be operated just with eye movements for people with limited mobility." Mia held it carefully. "That's amazing. Does it really work? Want to try it?" For the next 20 minutes, Alexander explained how his inventions worked. He showed her a door-opening system for people in wheelchairs, an app that translated sign language in real time, and a prototype of a smart cane for the visually impaired. "Why haven't you ever talked about this?" Mia asked, genuinely impressed. "Because most people wouldn't understand. They only see the CEO of a tech company, not the guy who enjoys fixing things. Just like me with the toaster." "Exactly. Although you nearly shocked yourself, and I always take precautions." They both laughed, and Mia felt a change in her heart. "You're full of surprises, you know? So are you. Who would have guessed a cleaning lady would make me rethink everything in my life?" They shared a moment before Mia looked away. "Let's head back upstairs. I still have work to do." That evening, Mia was finishing up in the kitchen when she heard soft music coming from the terrace. Curious, she went to see what was happening. Alexander was there, setting up a small sound system. He had lit candles and placed 2 glasses of juice on a table. "What's all this?" she asked. "Just practice," he replied. "For Saturday, they probably expect us to dance together. We need to look convincing." "Oh, right. Practice." But his tone suggested it was more than just that. "Do you know how to dance?" he asked. "A little. My mom taught me when I was younger. How about you?" "I had mandatory lessons as a child." Alexander reached out his hand. "May I?" Mia hesitated for a moment before taking it. He pulled her closer, resting one hand on her waist and holding her hand with the other. They started to move slowly to the music. Alexander was a smooth dancer, guiding her gently under the stars and candlelight. "You dance well," he said softly. "So do you." Those lessons paid off. It's not just the lessons. It's the partner. Mia looked into his eyes and felt a depth in his gaze that made her heart race. "Alexander, Mia, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" They stopped dancing, but he did not let go of her. "What I feel for you is unlike anything I've felt for anyone else. You barely know me. I know enough. I see your courage, your loyalty to your family, your sense of humor. I know you're brave and that you make me want to improve myself." "Alexander, stop." "Why?" "Because you're mixing up appreciation with something deeper. It's not just appreciation, Mia. It's more than that." He leaned closer, and she could feel his breath. "I think I'm falling in love with you." The words lingered between them. Mia's heart raced, but so did her worry. "I need to go." She quickly pulled away, leaving Alexander alone on the terrace. In her small room, Mia sat on the bed and covered her face with her hands. Her thoughts were swirling. For weeks, she had convinced herself this was just a job, that Alexander Montgomery was only her temporary boss, and that she was there to help with Nico's medical expenses, and that everything was simply make-believe. But when he looked at her like that, when he laughed at her jokes, when he shared his secret lab as if he was opening up his heart, when he said he was falling in love, she realized she was starting to really like him. And that scared her because Alexander Montgomery lived in a different world, a world of mansions and formal events, of million-dollar deals and family expectations, a world where a Latina cleaning lady from the south side of Chicago seemed out of place. Sooner or later, he would see the truth, and then he would choose someone like Victoria Sterling, someone from his world. When that moment came, Mia felt her heart start to break. No matter how much she tried to tell herself otherwise, she was falling in love too. It scared her more than anything ever had. On the terrace, Alexander stood where she had left him, gazing at the city lights. He realized he'd frightened Mia and that he might have revealed too much too quickly. But deep down, he believed every word he had spoken. Mia had entered his life like a storm, changing everything, making him laugh, making him frustrated, and causing feelings he never knew he could have. Now, he needed to show her that what they had was real, that they could be together despite their differences and the obstacles in their way. For the first time in his life, Alexander found something worth pursuing, and he wasn't ready to give up. On a Friday morning, Eleanor Montgomery arrived at their home with Victoria Sterling beside her, both having an expression that hinted at conflict. Alexander was having breakfast when they walked into the dining room with confidence. "Good morning, Alexander," Eleanor greeted him with a cold kiss on the cheek. "Victoria has some exciting news." Victoria smiled, her eyes full of triumph. "I spoke to my father yesterday. He's willing to invest $50 million in Montgomery Tech, but only if our families come together officially." Alexander nearly spilled his coffee. "What do you mean?" Eleanor took a seat smoothly. "It's straightforward, Alexander. The company needs funds to expand. The Sterling family is prepared to help, but we need to formalize the engagement first. I already said I'm not marrying Victoria." "And I said you need to stop acting immaturely," Eleanor replied sharply. "We've set the date, December 15th. The announcement will be in Time magazine, and the ceremony will happen at St. Patrick's Cathedral." Alexander stood up in disbelief. "You set a date without asking me?" "We checked your schedule," Victoria replied, showing him a tablet. "You're available that weekend." "This is ridiculous. I won't marry her," he insisted. Eleanor hit the table with her hand. "Alexander, enough of this. Your relationship with your employee has gone on long enough. It's time for you to take responsibility." "My responsibilities do not include marrying someone I don't love." Eleanor laughed coldly. "Love is not enough, Alexander. Business is essential. If you don't see that, what then? Will you cut ties with your family? I can pull my support from the company. I could sell my shares. I could ensure that no serious investor wants to work with you." The silence that followed was heavy. Alexander looked at his mother and then at Victoria and realized they were serious. "You're serious," he said. "Choose, Alexander, your family and your future, or a fleeting desire that won't last." Just outside the dining room, Mia was cleaning when she overheard the conversation. Each word felt striking. She had known this day might arrive. Deep down, she understood that Alexander belonged to a world where marriages were more than love, they were business agreements. Victoria continued, "Alexander, please be sensible. We've known each other for a long time. We get along well and have similar interests. Our partnership would help both families. I understand the situation you're in, but it can't last. It's just a phase," Eleanor said. "You're mixing up new feelings with real love. That's normal for someone your age, but it's time to mature now." Alexander was silent for a moment. "I need more time to think." "There's nothing to think about," Victoria replied. "It's the clear choice. I still need time," he said again. Eleanor stood up. "You have until Monday. If you don't give me an answer by then, I will assume you've chosen the wrong path, and I will take action." After they left, Alexander stayed alone in the dining room, looking out the window but not really seeing anything. $50 million. The company he had built from scratch, his family's legacy. All of it rested on a choice he wasn't ready to make. Later that day, Alexander locked himself in his office to work, but he couldn't focus. Every spreadsheet and report reminded him of his mother's warning. Without the family's support, he could lose everything. The company would be in serious trouble. Hundreds of workers could lose their jobs. All for what? For someone who wasn't even sure about being with him. Around 6 p.m., he almost believed Eleanor was right. Maybe he was being childish. Maybe an arranged marriage wasn't so bad. Maybe. Mia came to the doorway. "Can I come in?" Of course. She approached his desk but didn't sit down. "I heard your talk this morning." Alexander sighed. "Mia, no. Let me go first. I get it. I understand you have duties, that the company matters, and your family has hopes for you. I just wanted to say, if you decide to marry Victoria, I understand." "Really?" Alexander looked at her, surprised. "You understand? Yes, you have a lot to protect and people depend on you. That's too much to risk for whatever is happening between us. Mia, what we have is complicated and maybe not worth all this trouble." She turned to leave but paused at the door. "Just be happy, okay? However you can." That night, after work, Mia went to her room. She knew she wouldn't fall asleep, so she sat at her small desk and took out a piece of paper. For an hour, she wrote and erased her thoughts. Finally, she managed to express everything she wanted to say. When she was finished, she folded the letter neatly and went up to Alexander's room. The door was closed, but she could see light underneath. He was still awake. She slipped the letter under the door and returned to her room. 2 hours later, as Alexander got ready for bed, he discovered the letter. He recognized Mia's handwriting right away. "Alexander, when I was little, my mom always said, 'Life is made of choices. Some are easy, others are hard, but in the end, you need to be okay with yourself. I know you're facing a tough situation. I understand how your family wants you to act, that the company is at stake, and that everything is more complicated than I can grasp. That's why I've decided to make things easier for you. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, not because I'm upset, but because you need to decide without worrying about me. You should choose what is best for your life, not what you think I want to hear. If you choose Victoria and the life your family wants for you, I will understand. Truly, I won't hold any negative feelings. I will even hope you both find happiness. But if you choose a different path, if you decide to fight for what you really want, come find me. I will be waiting. Just one thing, Alex. Choose yourself first. For the first time, make a choice that's truly yours. Not for your mother, not for your job, and not based on what others think. You deserve to be happy in whatever way you choose. Thank you for everything. Mia. P.S. The new toaster you bought is working great. No repairs needed." Alexander read the letter 3 times. Then he sat on the edge of his bed, holding his head in his hands. Mia was leaving to make it easier for him to decide without feeling guilty. She was protecting him, even if it meant stepping away. At that moment, Alexander Montgomery knew what he had to do. For the first time, he was going to choose for himself, and he hoped it was not too late. Alexander didn't sleep at all Friday night. At 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, he was still awake, reading Mia's letter for the 10th time. By 7 o'clock, he had made a decision that would change his life forever. At 8 o'clock, he called James, his assistant. "James, I need you to cancel all my appointments for today and move the meeting with the Japanese investors to Monday at 10 a.m. in the main conference room." "But, sir, the meeting with the Japanese team isn't until Tuesday." "Change of plans. Also, I want you to invite my mother, Victoria Sterling, and all the board members. Tell them it's about the future of the company. It's urgent." "Yes, sir." "Anything else?" "Yes. Don't let Mia leave today. If she tries to go, come up with any excuse. Say there's a cleaning emergency or something." "Sir, just trust me." On Saturday morning, Mia woke up with a strange feeling. She had planned to leave early before Alexander woke up to avoid an awkward goodbye, but when she went to the kitchen, she found James waiting for her. "Mia, I'm glad you're here early. We have an emergency." "What kind of emergency?" "Mr. Montgomery's meeting with Japanese investors on Monday was changed, and the cleaning service canceled last minute. He specifically asked for you to handle the conference room." "All right, where is the room?" 20th floor of the Montgomery Tech Building. I'll give you the address." Monday came with a cloudy Chicago sky. Mia had been in the conference room since 8 a.m. making sure everything was perfect. It was a nice room with a big mahogany table, leather chairs, and a view of the city. At 9:40, she was finishing polishing the table when she heard a lot of voices in the hallway. "That's odd," she murmured. "I thought it was just the Japanese investors." She was putting away the cleaning supplies when the door opened, and people began to walk in, but they weren't Japanese. It was Eleanor Montgomery, Victoria Sterling, and several men in suits she didn't recognize. "And Mia," Eleanor said, clearly surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I was cleaning for the meeting." Victoria looked her up and down. Alexander invited the cleaning lady to a business meeting? Before Mia could answer, Alexander entered the room. He wore his best suit, but there was something different in his eyes. He looked determined and nervous, and when he saw Mia, there was a look of relief. "Perfect. Everyone's here," Alexander said. Eleanor asked, "Why is the employee still here? The meeting is about to begin." "Actually, Mother, she needs to stay. This meeting is about her." Mia felt a rush of surprise and concern. "Alexander, what are you doing?" "What I should have done weeks ago." He took his place at the head of the table, looking around at everyone present. "Thank you all for coming. I know this meeting was called on short notice, but I needed to talk to you about the future of Montgomery Tech and my own future." Eleanor frowned. "Alexander, if this is about the marriage proposal, we've already talked about it. It's about that and more." Alexander took a deep breath. "For years, you've told me what to do, how to act, and who to marry. I went along with it because I thought that was the right thing. I believed family and business were more important than my own happiness." Victoria shifted in her seat, but I was wrong. "Family is important and the company matters, but I shouldn't have sacrificed who I am for who you want me to be." He looked directly at Mia, who was leaning against the wall, wishing she could vanish. "A few weeks ago, a wonderful woman came into my life and changed everything. She made me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. She made me question things I always accepted. She inspired me to be a better person." "Alexander," Eleanor murmured, starting to see where this was going. "She's brave when I'm afraid. She's genuine when I'm pretending. She stands by me when I'm selfish. And she loves me with all my imperfections." Mia felt tears in her eyes, realizing she loved him too, more than she thought possible. Victoria stood up abruptly. "Alexander, you've completely lost your mind." "No, Victoria, I've finally found it." He walked over to Mia, who stood still, tears in her eyes and holding a cleaning cloth as if it could protect her. "Mia Gonzalez, you entered my life when I least expected it and turned everything around. You taught me that love isn't about convenience. It's about who chooses to stay. You showed me that sometimes the bravest choice we can make is to be happy." Eleanor tried to speak. "Alexander, this is absurd. You can't possibly." "Yes, I can. And I will." Alexander dropped to one knee right there in the conference room before everyone. "Before I go any further, Mia, will you marry me?" The silence that followed was complete. Mia looked at him kneeling on the floor, then at everyone in the room staring at her, then back at him. "You're out of your mind," she whispered. "So would you marry a crazy man?" The tears Mia had been holding back finally fell. "Alexander, are you sure? Your family, your company, they will have to accept me the way I am with the choices I've made." "Mia, I don't want to live without you. I don't want to wake up in an empty house. I don't want fancy dinners where no one really laughs. I want you. Only you." Mia looked into his eyes and saw nothing but honesty. "Yes, you crazy man. But you're doing the dishes too." The room burst into noise. Some people clapped. Others looked shocked. Eleanor was speechless. Victoria had already stormed out, slamming the door. Alexander stood up and kissed Mia right there in front of everyone, and she kissed him back. They didn't care about anything else. When they pulled apart, he whispered, "I made my choice. Finally, I chose for myself." "And you chose well," she said, smiling through her tears. One of the board members cleared his throat. "Well, that was unexpected. But what about the company and the Sterling investment?" Alexander turned around, still holding Mia's hand. "We'll find other investors. We'll grow at our own pace. And if that means starting smaller or starting over, that's fine. At least I'll be doing it with the person I chose, not the one you chose for me." Eleanor finally found her voice. Alexander, you can't be serious. I'm more serious than ever, Mother, and I hope you'll understand in time. He turned to Mia. Are you ready for an exciting life together? It will definitely be an adventure. So on the 20th floor of a corporate building, Alexander Montgomery chose love over comfort, happiness over duty, and Mia Gonzalez over anyone else. They both knew he had made the right choice. Victoria Sterling was not the kind of woman to accept failure quietly. 3 days after Alexander's public proposal, she was in her office planning a way to make Montgomery Tech regret turning her down. For years, she had gathered information through Eleanor details about negotiations, market strategies, and unprotected prototypes, information that, if used wisely, could harm what Alexander had built. On Thursday morning, she made 3 phone calls, one to a journalist known for uncovering corporate scandals, another to Montgomery Tech's biggest rival, and the last to a hacker who owed the Sterling family. I want everything leaked, she told the journalist. Business strategies, prototypes, contracts, everything. By 2 p.m., the first shock hit. A well-known publication released a damaging article about Montgomery Tech, claiming questionable practices and revealing secrets. The article included believable details about product launches and contracts, though none of it was true. Alexander was in a meeting with his marketing team when James burst in. Sir, we have a huge problem. Within 2 hours, Montgomery Tech's stock value fell by 20%. 3 major contracts were canceled. Investors started calling for answers. How did this happen? Alexander asked, looking at the report spread out in front of him. This was all supposed to be confidential. Someone with inside access leaked this, said Sarah, the head of security. Someone who knew our protocols. Alexander didn't need to think hard to figure out who it was. Meanwhile, Mia was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Victoria walked in wearing a red dress and a mischievous smile. Hello, Mia. I assume you've seen the news. Mia turned, holding a knife she had been using to chop vegetables. What news? That your fiancé's company is falling apart? How unfortunate. Seems like choosing love over logic has its fallout. It was you, Mia accused. Me? Victoria pretended to be surprised. I just shared information that was available to me. Information a wise person would have kept safer. Mia placed the knife on the cutting board and faced Victoria fully. You brought down a whole company because you couldn't handle being turned down. I protected my own interests, Victoria replied. And I showed Alexander what happens when he picks the wrong person. The wrong person? Mia laughed, but it was not a joyful sound. Victoria, do you want to know the difference between us? Enlighten me. When things get tough, I work to fix them. You destroy everything and blame others. What a touching philosophy. Too bad it won't save the company. Mia walked toward Victoria with a calmness that did not reflect the storm in her eyes. You're right. Philosophy doesn't save a company. But do you know what does? People who truly care. People who work together. People who don't give up when times are hard. And you think you and Alexander can? Me and Alexander, along with every employee who believes in this company. Yes. Because you made a mistake, Victoria. What mistake? You thought that by hurting the company, you would hurt what we have. But you forgot one thing. Real connections grow stronger during tough times, not weaker. Victoria took a step back. We will see. Yes, we will. Yes, we. And when you do, you'll see that you threw away a chance to be part of something important, all because you were proud. After Victoria left, Mia called Alexander. Love, where are you? At the office dealing with problems. I'm coming over and I'm bringing help. What kind of help? You'll see. An hour later, Mia arrived at Montgomery Tech with a surprising group. Donna and 3 other cleaning staff, Carlos the gardener, Miguel the doorman, and 6 others who worked jobs the higher-ups rarely noticed. What are you all doing here? Alexander asked, surprised. Saving the company, Mia replied. Donna has a degree in accounting. Carlos studied engineering before becoming a gardener. Miguel worked in marketing for 15 years but lost his job because of his age. Mia, I don't understand. Alexander, you've always seen these people as support staff, but they are so much more than that. They can help rebuild everything. Sarah, the head of security, stepped forward. Sir, with all due respect, we need every hand we can get. Things are critical. Alexander looked around. His executive team looked downhearted. Some board members had already suggested selling the company, but here was Mia standing with a group of people nobody ever noticed, wanting to help. "All right," he said. "What's your plan?" Donna stepped forward. "First, we will review all contracts and find legal gaps to stop any issues. Second, Miguel will work on a marketing campaign to improve our image. Third, Carlos will review our prototypes and suggest technical improvements, and I will coordinate everything to make sure you all have the support you need." For the next 2 days, Montgomery Tech was buzzing with activity. Executives worked alongside janitors. Managers learned tips from doormen. The strict hierarchy faded away, replaced by real teamwork. Miguel created a campaign called The Real Montgomery that highlighted actual employees, their stories, and their contributions. Donna found mistakes in the leaked data that showed it was tampered with. Carlos suggested 3 upgrades to the prototypes that made them even better than the versions that had been leaked. Alexander worked harder than he ever had, and for the first time, he wasn't alone at the top. Mia was right there with him, organizing, motivating, and solving problems with a skill that impressed even the most experienced managers. On Saturday night, as the final touches of the recovery campaign were being completed, Eleanor showed up at the office. She found Alexander and Mia laughing while going over the marketing materials, surrounded by their newly formed team that felt more like family. "How are things going?" Eleanor asked hesitantly. "Better than I expected," Alexander replied. "We're going to come out of this stronger." Eleanor watched Mia explaining something to Donna, using gestures, making everyone laugh. She noticed the way Alexander looked at her, more relaxed and happier than she had seen him in years. "You got all these people to help you." "Yes, people I didn't even know had these kinds of skills." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "Alexander?" "Yes, Mom. Maybe she is the right woman." Alexander smiled. "I already know she is, and maybe you're smarter than I thought." "I learned from the best," he said, looking at Mia. "No, son. You learned with your heart. That's something I never knew how to teach." At that moment, Mia walked over to them. "Eleanor, I'm so glad you're here. Want to see how the new campaign is going?" For the first time, Eleanor smiled genuinely at Mia. "I'd love to." Montgomery Tech didn't just survive Victoria's attack. It came out stronger, united, and with a new way of thinking. Talent doesn't depend on social class, and the best teams are those where everyone matters. Victoria Sterling watched everything from a distance, realizing too late that she had lost much more than a fiancé. She had missed the chance to be part of something truly special. 6 months after the surprising proposal in Chicago, Alexander Montgomery stood in front of a simple altar by Lake Michigan, adjusting his tie once again. "Stop fiddling with your tie," muttered James, his best man. "You're going to ruin it." "I'm nervous," Alexander admitted, glancing at the guests settling into white chairs on the grass. "What if she changes her mind? What if she thinks she can do better?" "Alexander," James said, "she organized a whole team to save your company. I don't think she'll leave you at the altar." Meanwhile, in a wooden cabin nearby, Mia had her own nervous moment. "Mom, isn't this dress too simple?" she asked while looking in the mirror. She wore a white cotton dress that flowed gently to her ankles. Carmen adjusted her daughter's veil. "Sweetheart, you look beautiful. And besides, Alexander isn't marrying the dress. He's marrying you." "Are you sure we shouldn't have done something more grand?" asked Donna, who was helping with Mia's makeup. "Mia, you're doing this perfectly just the way you are. Simple, real, and full of love." Nico appeared at the door looking sharp in a suit, but with a smile that lit up the room. "Ready, sis? The groom looks like he's going to faint if you take any longer." At the same time, the guests sat in a mix not usually seen at Chicago's high society weddings. In the front row, Eleanor Montgomery chatted with Carmen Gonzalez about family recipes. Right behind them, Montgomery Tech executives sat alongside cleaning staff, gardeners, and doormen, all in their best outfits. Sarah, the security manager, was telling Miguel, the former doorman now in marketing, how she got to know the groom. "I worked with him for 5 years and never saw him smile as much as he has these past few months," she said. In the third row, Three board members were softly talking about how the company had doubled in value since Alexander embraced a more inclusive way of thinking. The violinist, a local musician, began to play, and everyone stood. Alexander felt his heart stop as Mia walked toward the altar on Nico's arm. She smiled, that same smile that had captured Alexander from the beginning. But something was different now, a calmness and happiness that made her shine. When they reached the altar, Nico kissed his sister's forehead and whispered, "Be happy, sis. You deserve it." He shook Alexander's hand firmly. "Take good care of her, or I'll come after you." "Don't worry," Alexander replied, unable to take his eyes off Mia. The pastor, a young and friendly man Alexander had found while looking for casual weddings, smiled at the couple. "Welcome, everyone, to this special moment." Alexander and Mia chose to celebrate their love outdoors, surrounded by their closest friends and family. Before the ceremony started, they wanted to share a few words. Alexander took a deep breath. "Mia, 6 months ago, you entered my life and changed everything for the better. You showed me that family is not just about a name, but about who stays by your side during tough times. You taught me that true success is not about wealth, but about having caring people around you. And sometimes, being open and honest is the bravest thing we can do." He paused, feeling tears in his eyes. "You came into my life like a whirlwind, shaking up everything I knew, and I am thankful for that every day. Now I wake up wanting to be a better person." Many people in the audience were already emotional. Eleanor discreetly dried her eyes with a lace handkerchief, and Mia smiled through her own tears. "Alexander, you can be stubborn, and sometimes it's hard to understand you," she said, making some people laugh. "But you are also the most loyal, generous, and funny person. You made me believe in love, just not in the fairy tale way we see in movies." She held his hands tightly. "You taught me that love is not about agreeing on everything, but about standing together when times get tough. Sometimes the right person comes into your life unexpectedly. You showed me that taking risks for something that matters is always worth it." The pastor then said, "Now, let's exchange the rings." James handed over the simple gold rings they had chosen together at a small jewelry store. "Alexander, do you take Mia to be your wife, promising to love, respect, and support her always?" "I do," Alexander replied, his voice full of emotion. "And Mia, do you take Alexander to be your husband, promising to love, respect, and support him always?" "I do," she said, placing the ring on his finger with slightly shaking hands. "By the power given to me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Alexander, you may kiss your bride." Their kiss was filled with love and joy, and the crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Donna shouted, "Finally!" which made everyone laugh, even startling some birds nearby. But then came the surprise as they pulled apart. Mia took a small bag of rice from her bouquet and poured it at Alexander's feet. "What are you doing?" he asked with a laugh. "It's a family tradition," she explained. "Rice means prosperity, and now I get to hold the heart of the business." Alexander laughed again and kissed her once more. The celebration afterward was a fantastic mix of cultures and traditions. The band played everything from classical songs to lively salsa music. Eleanor danced with Carlos, the gardener, and found he was a great partner. Carmen taught dance steps to 3 Swedish executives who hadn't had this much fun in years. Mia and Alexander started the dance with a graceful waltz. But soon they were joined by all their guests in a fun group dance. "Are you happy?" Alexander asked as he spun Mia around, and everyone clapped. "Happier than ever, even knowing that I will have to put up with you every day." As the music came to an end, they shared one last kiss beneath the warm glow of the sunset over Lake Michigan. They were surrounded by the people who cared for them deeply. Alexander Montgomery and Mia Gonzalez Montgomery realized they had discovered something more precious than any treasure. They had found each other.